Hello, my friends. D.L. Anderson here. Welcome back to Transformation by Truth podcast as we share the truth concerning these last days and what you must do to save yourself from the violent times that are just ahead. Today's podcast is a word of truth accounting of the end times. The end is coming. The end is near. Today's podcast is entitled End Times 321, The Spiritual Disease of Doubt, Part 1, The Progression of Doubt. The podcast objectives are reveal the 3 steps in the progression of doubt, provide a high-level summary of the progression of doubt, and reveal the downfall of doubt. This lesson contains timelines and other visuals. Therefore, if you are listening to the podcast, I advise you to watch the video version on our website or YouTube, or request a PDF of the lesson so you can add the visual effect. The progression of doubt. Shalom, my beloved brothers and sisters, and welcome to day 38 of our exposition of lawlessness. In the most recent podcast, I provided an intro to this leading degree of lawlessness. Enter doubt. Among all the downfalls of doubt we discussed in that lesson, the most crucial is the fact that doubt leads directly to a universal stronghold that subjects you to them all. Here is why this is so devastating. It is impossible for anyone to eliminate a stronghold in their life if they, due to their false reality, doubt the stronghold exists. Not only this, but Yahuwah will not rescue everyone who acquires a spiritual stronghold, even though the end result of this acquisition is certain spiritual death. Now, I trust I have gotten your attention with this declaration. Look here, we have barely begun to address the first of the 80 degrees of lawlessness, and we are already discussing the damning prospects of spiritual strongholds and endless death. Now, the question of the hour, then, is simply this: how do we eliminate doubt? The answer begins with understanding the evolution of doubt in our minds. For as it is a process, it can be broken. All we need is to understand the process, i.e., the progression of doubt. Along these lines, there are 3 steps in this process. They are the questioning, withdrawal, and opposition. And we will commence this analysis with the first step. Enter the questioning. When you contend with truth. Now, as I just mentioned, the first step in the progression of doubt is questioning what is true. This generally happens when we can't see how something can be true. Ergo, we hesitate to believe how it is, in fact, true. Here lies an immense problem, the first of many problems with the plague of doubt. Consider this and be advised, my friends. Our ability to understand how something can be true has no bearing on whether or not it is true. Now, despite this fact, many of us will base our perceptions of what is true on our limited ability to establish how it can be true. Again, here lies the problem vis-a-vis As we question the truth based upon our inability to establish the how factor, we are positioning ourselves to withdraw from the truth while taking the first step to adopting a false reality. Accordingly, withdrawing from the truth is the second step in the progression of doubt. To wit, after we begin questioning what is true, we will begin to separate ourselves from the truth, wherein lies another immense problem. 'Tis a more immense problem than the first. Consider it carefully. Truth is equated to light. Therefore, those who withdraw from the truth are forced to walk in darkness. Now, this is the juncture in the progression of doubt where the acquisition of a stronghold becomes very real. For no one walks into one of Satan's traps on purpose. Quite the contrary, they would have to be walking in darkness, i.e., spiritually blind, to incur this fate. As it so happens, this is the third and final step in the progression of doubt, a spiritual death blow, as it were. To wit, once we have separated ourselves from the truth, we begin to oppose the truth. To our bad fortune, we begin to fatally contend with what is right and what is real. Here lies another immense problem, a problem greater than the sum of the first two problems concerning doubt combined. Consider it faithfully and examine yourself. For as I have said before, if you fail this degree of lawlessness, you will fail them all. When you contend with the truth, you are contending with Elohim. You are making yourself his opponent. The downfall of doubt. Now, I don't think it is necessary to analyze the great peril of contending with Elohim and making yourself his opponent. However, I do think it is necessary for you to appreciate and understand how this is exactly what you are doing when you doubt him. This is why he considers doubters to be his opponents. Besides the fact that they will soon incur a stronghold and position themselves outside of his kingdom, he has no pleasure in dissenters because they fail to establish a foundation of faith. And without this foundation, they cannot progress the work of his spirit in their lives. Hebrews 10, 36 through 39 is revealing. For you have need of endurance, so that when you have done the desire of Elohim, you receive the promise. For yet a little while, he who is coming shall come and shall not delay. But the righteous shall live by faith. But if anyone draws back, my being has no pleasure in him. But we are not of those who draw back to destruction, but of faith to the preservation of life. This passage clearly reveals how all who doubt Elohim do so to their own destruction, and all because they couldn't see how some facet of his will could be true. This, my friends, is the progression and downfall of doubt and the fate of all who do not please Elohim. Now, here is the final word. The only way to stay on track is to press your way forward and never draw back. Trust me, It's one thing to say these words, but it's something more when you actually do them, when you actually live them. Brothers and sisters, you must believe me. Doubt is a silent killer, for doubt does not rage like some degrees of lawlessness. Quite the contrary, doubt is subtle, making its progression more difficult to stop. And yet, it must be stopped if we are to be saved. And thus, I offer these words to you, O Elohim, for all this people to pray. Alas, what hourly dangers rise, what snares beset my way. To heaven then I shall lift my eyes, rebuking doubt as I pray. How oft my mournful thoughts complain and melt in flowing tears. My weak resistance, how but vain, how strong my foes and fears. O gracious Elohim, in whom I live, my feeble efforts aid. Help me to fight and stay and strive, though trembling and afraid. Now, here is today's assignment. Meditate on the word you have heard today. And as always, ask the Father to reveal the truth to you. For the children of Elohim live by conviction. And if he has not convicted you, or if you had not heard him concerning these matters, you should pray until you do. Today, I want you to meditate on the progression of doubt. Meditate on the process in which we question the Most High, which leads us to withdrawing from the Most High, which leads us to contending with the Most High. And in the spirit of honesty, examine yourself and determine if you are knowingly or unknowingly engaging in any of these dreadful acts. And if you are, I encourage you to repent and seek forgiveness from the Father. And stay with me, my friends. Trust me, we will have the final word on doubt. In the end, I will show you how you can keep yourself from this progression, and you will never fall prey to doubt again. Now, here is what's next. We completed today's podcast, End Times 321, The Spiritual Disease of Doubt, Part 1. And the next podcast is entitled End Times 322, The Spiritual Disease of Doubt, Part 2. I will post this podcast on Friday, August 9th, 2024. Until then, my friends, continue to be led by the Spirit of Elohim. Continue to watch, continue to pray, continue in fasting, and most of all, continue to be focused, for the end is coming. The end is near.